Hey everyone, welcome to Scarecrow Miniature Painting. I am Steven, and we are about to finish up this Wright. Now I know I said in a prior video that we would be doing the vampires first. However, my son, we will call him Little Scarecrow or Baby Scarecrow, decided that he wanted to do his first miniature. Now he's only 3, however, I think this Wright is definitely good enough to go in a competition for at least 3-year-olds. When I asked him why he chose the color, he said he liked blue. So, while we're on the topic of our miniatures, I've uploaded a couple of shorts onto the channel already regarding it. But this is what we got going on so far. As you can see, I did put a little bit of stitching detail on the back. It's still a little wet, but looks amazing. And then all we really have left is the eyes, which I'm going to use red for. We are going to do the mouth, which I have to get my black out. Now, currently, I don't have any actual stands or anything like that. That would help with that. But what I do have is a bag, and I do have all the original boxes that all of my paints have came in. Now the big question that we're going to run into today is when we do our wash, what color wash are we going to utilize? Me personally, I'm leaning closer to a dark wash, but might do a strong wash as well. Right now what I'm doing is I'm just cleaning up a lot of the paints that I'm not going to use. As of right now, actually I'll keep that out for highlighting, and then that's going to be for highlighting as well. We need that out for the sword. The iron can go back in. And I'm going to use the wolf gray for highlighting as well. So the plan is for some of these more metallic looking pieces, especially these bone pieces, I'm going to do a top highlight as if the sun's coming down. Mummy robes is going to be for the hair. Wood grain from a Vallejo model color is going to be for the bow that still needs to be painted, as well as the arrows on the back. I am going to try doing something a little bit different that I don't usually do with the arrows, and that's trying to get the notches on there. Typically I just paint in one color and move on. Beyond that, let's get into these eyes. I already got the red down, so I'm just going to take my paintbrush, load it up with some red, and I'm going to ever carefully touch that eye. Now I am going to let that dry for a bit, but I'm also going to take my initial paint color, which was the hardened carapace from not Games Workshop, Army Painter, and I'm just going to touch up that face a little bit because I do see some spots that when I was doing the eye kind of went a little loose on. This way I can clean it up. And that is it. So as you can see, we got some, it's hard to see, you can kind of see it, we got some red eyes. Once again, I will be doing a picture at the end of this. um, so that we have everything lined up. Now what I want to do is the hair. I've been debating on, am I going to use skull bone, am I going to use mummy robes? I've chosen mummy robes for this. With really any paints that you use, um, especially for the hairs and any highlighting, you want to make sure that, especially if it's white, is what I'm trying to say, my apologies. You want to make sure that it's an off-white. Because it's not going to be exactly the same color as your elderly folks' hair. So if you look at them, some have darker white, some have lighter white, some have more of a bluish white. But you do want to try to keep everything in line with how you want it done. This one, as many of you know, I do commission work. This is not commission work. This is actually one of my personal miniatures. And it's been sitting there, not painted yet, for a little bit. And I was like, you know what? I have to get this one painted. And I was debating, am I going to do the vampire or was I going to do this one? And my son, like I said, little scarecrow, decided to say, no, we're going to do this one. So as that dries, we're going to move on to that sword. So I'm going to be using plate mail metal from Army Painter for the sword. But only on one part, and that is right where the pommel is and the guard. Those are going to be plate mail. The rest of it is going to be gunmetal. Now, I've chosen gunmetal mainly because it's more, in my opinion, darker metal. Looks more as if it would be a metal that would go on the actual blade and not on, say, the guard or armor. Beyond that, we are getting close to being done with this one. We have shading to do. Like I said, I might do some highlighting with it. As I said in my initial video, I'm going to try my best to shorten the length of the videos. I know that 1 hour video was quite a lot, and I do apologize for anyone who did sit through the whole video. But at the same time, thank you for taking the time and seeing the entire process that I lay out on a daily basis. Now we gotta find our gunmetal. Before I do that gunmetal, I am going to wash that again because that's looks like it's still held on to some of the paint in that vessel. So we're just going to take some of it, wipe it off a little, test it, and then we're going to run. Now, there's not going to be much of a contrast here between the blade and the hilt and the guard, only because it is a similar silver color, but it is darker, a little bit more dull, And that's the goal we are looking for with this blade, is a little bit more dull than the hilt. So far that's what we have. As you can see, he is looking really good. We just have the bow and the arrows to do. And then we have highlighting the bone on his armor, which we can do that right now, actually. So I'm going to take some of the white. I'm just going to now, when highlighting, as I said in the first episode, you really want to make sure that you're doing around 2 to 3 bits of highlighting. However, this one being a personal one of mine, we're just going to do the one. And hopefully with that shade, it turns out a little bit darker. With the bow, we already have our bow paint ready. I've chosen to use this mixture of vampire red and wood grain. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, I'm going to change that up to this mixture right here of wood grain, orange leather, or orange brown, my apologies, and vampire red. Gives a little bit more of a wood texture to it, as well as it is a little bit more on the brown side rather than on the red, which is what we're going for with the bow. And with that sword, what we're also going to do while we're at it, since we have it on the palette already, is we will add a little bit of the silver or plate mill to the sword blade so that we can get more of a highlight on that as well. Now, what I like about this effect that we're got going on right now, and I'll show you it here in a second, is the darker tones that we have going on with this orange and with the wood grain are actually pulling up and showing that on darker areas, such as the back, it's a little bit darker than on the front. Now see, I'm in the same light, same area. It's just a little bit darker. I do like that. We didn't even change the colors up. We kept the same colors, kept the same color palette. And what we're going to move on to next is going to be that silver on the blade. So I'm just going to take that silver and I'm going to run it across the top of that blade hilt or blade edge, because that's what's right in the area of effect we got going on for the blade. Now, looking over it one last time, making sure I didn't miss nothing. Now we can do the basing. Now, a lot of you that have seen the channel, what I've done so far, know that I would like to use mud effect. I was debating on doing that with this one, but ultimately have decided no, we're not. I got you there. I have another effect paint in here we are going to use called Disgusting Slime. So my thought process behind this guy was he just escaped a gelatinous cube. Or he has landed on a gelatinous cube. Because with the way the paint is currently set up, or the base I should say, it's hard to see if he's on rock or whatnot, so we are going to just imagine that it's a gelatinous cube and that he has been stuck inside of it. And we can even pull some of this up his leg, about midway. Up the sides. And we will see how that turns out, of course, after we use the effect paints. And after we use the blood effect that I'm going to have being used here in a second. And I know what a lot of people might be thinking, well, Steven, why is he in a gelatinous cube at all? Well, we don't know, really. That's the fun part about D&D, is you never know what you're going to get yourself into. You never know what your enemies are getting themselves into either. But so far, that is what we got going on. It's looking good. I wish I would have painted the base, honestly, because this slime effect, it's going to take a while to dry, but also I got some of the rust stuck on there. But, I mean, it gives it a little bit more of a shimmer as well. So, now we're going to move on to the glistening blood effect. So, a lot of the time you'll see me using the glistening blood by splattering it on the body and everything like that. I'm not doing that this time. I'm going to be using a different technique that I learned in order to get a similar effect, but not the exact effect. It's similar to sponging, but not exactly the same. So first I'm just going to take this dry brush, I'm going to load it up, and first and foremost I'm going to take it to this blade. So I took it to the blade because of the fact that I wanted to make sure that we get it to look like he actually dug that into somebody. He's got some openings on his body that we're also going to sit there and lightly touch on. Especially on the arms, to show that he has been in battle recently. We're going to put a little bit on the chest. Not much. Just enough to get the point across. And there we have it. While we wait for that to dry, let's go over some little facts of what I did for the whole project. The body. Oh, we are not done. My apologies. I forgot about this effect that we were going to get going for it. Okay, so first and foremost, we want to clean off any of our clumpy paint. Sadly, this is an old pot. We might not have a lot of paint left in it. But we are going to take our finest tipped paintbrush, fill it up, and there's these spikes on his body. We are going to touch on each of those. To make those pop. Now that I'm looking over it, I did miss one other spot that I can easily touch up on as well. So that's not that bad. I mean, usually when you're going back over final details or ideas, you run into stuff like this. So it is not that bad to miss only about 2 things. Good news is I have both paints still here. I didn't put anything up that I would have needed. Okay, now we just have the ones on his arm. Okay. So I'm going to take this as well. I'm going to just touch that. It should take the excess that I had put on. For some reason, this one decided to pull a little weird. I do see one other spot I can touch up. Okay, so that one's touched up. I'm going to go back through the armor real quick. Do a tagging of the armor so that anything that I didn't want a specific color during that blackening process is fixed. Okay. So, we got the blade, we got the effects done. Everything seems to be drying. We have this pant leg on the inside of the body that I missed. So, not too bad. Take some rust because I got a little bit too hot on that. And there we go. We have a Wright. Now, here's what we're going to do next. As I said, I wasn't sure which tone I was going to use. He's already pretty dark, so we're going to go with a dark shade. Or a strong shade. So, with that being said, we're going to take our handy dandy dry brush, fill it up, and I'm really focusing on these skeleton bones that we highlighted earlier, mainly because they have these eyes that I want to really pop. I'm going to touch up the hair. And the face, because the face has that inner mouth and this neck part that I want to definitely show through. And then on the pants have these recesses inside of them. I definitely want that to show through on the miniature as well. And on some of his armor too. So really the only thing we will not be touching up when it comes to the washing phase is going to be bow and arrow, but I am going to do a light touch up on that. I don't want it to pull. And I know we said we were going to do those arrows, but I'm looking at them and they already look pretty dang good. I like that the gray from the base coat kind of gives it a more, what's the word I'm looking for? A more naturalistic look, because it already looks like it has the notches for the arrows. And we are going to let this dry. I'm going to hit that blade as well. Like I said, we might as well just do the whole miniature now that I'm thinking about it. That's the thing with miniature painting, is you never know until after you are nearly done with it how much where you're going to put stuff, if something looks right. And it's always okay to go back and redo any part of your miniature. There have been whole miniatures that I've decided, you know what, I didn't like that I added a highlight there, so I'm going to completely redo it. But this is what we have. Once again, this will be pictured on our channel as well. But this is what we just spent the last about hour and a half doing. It's only half an hour for you guys. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoy how he turned out. I especially love how that blade looks and the blood effect on the armor. And if you guys have any questions or anything about my techniques, about how I got into miniature painting, there's other videos on there as well. And you can also find my Facebook page on the description below. With that being said, have a great night. See y'all later.